It is close to 5:30 right now. We need to be at the hospital at 7. We're gonna go grab some food, head over to my parents, have a meal, and then we're gonna head over. So, you know, it's kind of hard to know what to pack in a bag, especially first time mom. You know, I watched all the videos of everybody else, so I have kind of an idea, but you never really know until, you know, you do it. So I have the baby bag packed right here. I've got burp cloths, I've got diapers, even though I know the hospital will provide all that, a daddy hat and a baby hat. I have the swaddles, I have the onesies, 2 short sleeve, 2 long sleeve, 2 PJ set things, 3 pairs of pants, and then I have the Moby wrap, just the other like baby stuff that I put in the bag already, which was like the nose Frida, and I don't know if I have the butt paste in here or not. I don't think I do. And hopefully I have everything that I need. I hope I'm not forgetting anything. We'll try and update you later and let you know how it goes. Okay, we're in the birthing room. Got the room with the window, so I'm super stoked about that. I was really hoping that we were gonna get that. There's a big, huge tub here. If I wanna jump in there, I can. You can see there's Garrett and his little, that's his corner. And it pulls out into like a little bed thing. Then we have a little fridge, all of our crap right there. This is where I will be sleeping. And then this is the rest of the room. So, you know, just a medical room. That's where Oliver's gonna spend a little bit of time, and if he needs to, I mean, they'll probably come over here and do a couple things like shots and stuff. It's the warming table, so there's that. And then we also have the bathroom in here. So brand new, freshly cleaned potty. And, you know, just normal bathroom stuff. Lots of rails, a little seat, some towels. And then we also have our little goodie bag that has a whole bunch of different stuff in it. A little hat, a water thing. And then this is the bassinet that he's gonna be sleeping in while we're here and recovering. So I'm gonna pee in a cup and put my robe on and get comfy. So hopefully we're not in for too long of a stay, but we'll see how it goes. After we got situated, I was checked for dilation, and I was about 1/2 centimeter dilated and 50% effaced. I was given my first dose of misoprostol at 8:30 on Friday, October 18th. I was checked again at midnight on Saturday the 19th and was about the same. I was having frequent contractions and was starting to be able to feel them. I was given fluids through an IV because I was slightly dehydrated. At 12:45 a.m., I started to experience some cramping sensations. I was given a second dose of misoprostol at 1:10 a.m. I slept a little, but not very much, and I was woken for a third dose of misoprostol at 5:15 a.m. I was checked again and was 1 to 1.5 centimeters dilated and 70% effaced. I was experiencing stronger contractions, so I got out of bed to use the bathroom, and on my way, my water broke at 6:06 a.m. After that, my contractions started to get very strong and painful. I was given an epidural at 9:14 a.m. and was checked again at 11:15 and was ready to bring my baby into this world. I started to push at 11:30 and Oliver Lee was born at 1:03 p.m. After Oliver was born, we rested, and then we were transferred to our recovery room. We had some family come and visit us to see our new baby boy. My husband and I were completely exhausted as we hadn't had much sleep the night before. We ate, and then we tried to get a little bit of rest in between the nurses coming in every few hours or minutes, really, to check me and to check Oliver. At around 1 a.m. on Sunday, October 20th, the nurse was concerned about Oliver's oxygen levels. She took him to the nursery for observation, and it was discovered that Oliver had a pneumothorax, which is a hole in his left lung.
and he needed to be transferred right away to the NICU at OHSU, about an hour away from where I gave birth. When we got to the hospital, you can see here the x-ray machine that they used on him and all of the other machines that were keeping track of his heart rate and his oxygen levels. It was a little overwhelming, and to see my baby hooked up to all these tubes and everything I just don't wish that on anyone. It was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. That night that we got there on the 20th, we had to scramble around trying to find accommodations for us to stay. We didn't know how long we'd be there. And so our first night there, we ended up having to stay in one of the lactation rooms in the NICU wing because there were not dedicated rooms until finally the Ronald McDonald House had a room for us. And I can't tell you what a relief it was to finally be on the list and get into one of these rooms. The Ronald McDonald House we stayed in was right down the tram, the aerial tram from the hospital. So it was less than 10 minutes to get from our room up to his room. You can see here that it's a really nice room. It did have a fridge, a mini fridge, and a microwave so that we were able to have some kind of meals at the room if we wanted. But the Ronald McDonald House also had a full kitchen on a separate floor and a lot of different accommodations. They were amazing, and they provided us a home away from home while we were waiting to see if our baby was going to make it through the ordeal that he was going through. And we just could not have imagined being away from him. And we were so fortunate that we were able to kind of take a few moments, take a deep breath, and just know that everything was going to be okay. We were going to get through this. We were really fortunate. And we started to, after the first week, get into a routine, and we found our new normal. It was different, but it started to feel familiar, and we were comforted with the fact that all of the doctors that were on Oliver's team were doing an amazing job around the clock to make sure that he was going to get better. This is a sped up version of the aerial tram going over downtown Portland, or you can see downtown Portland in the distance. It actually takes about 2 to 2.5 minutes for the full ride, but obviously I sped this up for the video. It was a beautiful view, and there was just a lot of riding that up and down. And when we weren't able to get on the tram because of the hours, the Ronald McDonald House provided us with a taxi free of charge. And again, I just can't say enough good things about them. They completely took care of us and made sure that we had everything that we needed while we were going through this stressful time in our life. Not to mention, I had just given birth, and having to see my baby hooked up to this CPAP with a chest tube and all of these other things. I hope no mother would ever have to go through that, but if you do, just know that you're not alone. You will get through this, and it will take some time.
Hi, baby boy. How are you? Hello. Hi, honey. How's it going? Are you all better now? Huh? That was pretty rough, wasn't it? Oh, big yawn. Yeah. Yeah, big yawn. Is it sleepy time? Yeah.
After about a week or so, he was finally able to get off of his CPAP and just go to regular oxygen. And shortly after that, he was able to have the oxygen turned off, and he was breathing just fine on his own. At that point, it was all about getting him to eat on his own without the feeding tube. You can see here he is ravished and starving for the bottle. And he finally started to get the hang of it and kind of figure it out and understand how it worked. And before we were able to be released, he had to be able to eat the whole bottle before we could go home to make sure that he was going to be eating well when we were not at the hospital. We were in the hospital for about 2 weeks, and while we were there, his personality really started to show. He was very particular about what he liked and what he didn't like. He had a very strict schedule. He woke up every 3 hours, and when he still had his feeding tube, he was fed a full meal, and then his diaper was changed, and we got to participate in his care times. We would change him and put an outfit on him when he was finally able to wear some clothes. We would switch the oxygen sensor from one foot to the other and just make sure that he was okay and had everything that he needed. And we were there through Halloween, so we were able to get him this adorable little panda costume from the Ronald McDonald House and give him his first Halloween. He started taking to the binky pretty well, and he was just relaxing and just looking like a little man. And finally, at the 2-week mark, we were ready to bring our player 3 into the world and take him home with us. That day was so awesome. We were all so ecstatic and yet so exhausted from the journey that we had been on. And we couldn't wait to get this little man into his car seat and drive home with him.